All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Maury Paz, and I'm a director of product for our ESG solutions at ServiceNow. And with me today, I have Brittany Pettit, who is our outbound senior staff outbound product manager, Vaishak Krishnan, who's our principal product manager, and Sachin Hedge, who's our content manager. And we all today going to deliver what's new in our Washington release. If you have any questions, or if you have any comments, please, we encourage you to use our chat and Q&A tools in the webinar, as well as we're going to have a few polls, and we would love to hear you through those polls prior to us engaging in the Q&A session. And with that, just a quick safe harbor notice for everybody that the presentation may contain some forward-looking statements, and we want you to hear us out, and please refrain from taking screenshots or pictures. If you like this webinar and you would like to join us in a future webinar or 360 exchange, please snap that QR code and you'll be able to log in and look at all the options we have for you as we schedule and put these out there every few weeks. So hopefully you can join us in a future live on ServiceNow session. Some housekeeping rules prior to starting the presentation. We have time at the end for Q&A. So please use the Q&A button in your screen. There's a chat in the Q&A. Just please use the Q&A. This presentation is recorded and will be shared in the community. And after the event, we'll have a short survey for you. So if you can please give us your feedback, that would be much appreciated. Let's start with a quick poll. We want to know from the audience if you've deployed sustainability management or ESG solutions at your organization. Let us know if you have and you're using a tool today. If you haven't yet, but you're in the process of implementing one. If you haven't, but you plan to purchase and implement one in the next 12 months. Or if you don't have one, but you have plans, you have no plans of doing so in the next 12 months. Let's give you a minute or two to vote. Let's see. We'll see where we stand on this one. I'll give you another, say, 20 seconds to answer this guy, and then we're going to move on and see some of those answers. Okay, let's close that poll and move forward. Right. Very interesting results. A lot of you, about 50%, have no plans on on having a sustainability management solution at your organization in the next 12 months. But the other half either has one or is implementing or planning to implement one in the next 12 months. So that's a 50-50. It's not surprising at this point based on the maturity of the market. So that's a very interesting result. Thank you for participating. All right. So let's chat a little bit about what does ESG management look like at ServiceNow. And I wanted to start everybody before we get into talking about the Washington release. I want everybody to understand what is our company's purpose and what is our business purpose, right? So as ServiceNow, we make the world work better for everyone. And our risk and ESG business, our vision is to seamlessly embed risk, compliance, resilience, and sustainability into enterprise-wide workflows and digital experiences to make the world work better for everyone. When we say embed, we mean taking content, data, workflows, and decision-making into consideration. When we talk about enterprise-wide workflows, we're talking about integrating and expanding the usability across the enterprise. So a lot of our products embed content and data like ESG, and we integrate with other products in the platform to make it a better experience for everyone. We also use the latest innovation and technology, like AI. And we make it all always work better for everyone because these tools require you to have transparency and real-time visibility to monitor your current programs through dashboards and to communications with stakeholders. How do we do that? Well, our ESG product has 5 pillars we deliver the product in. The ESG strategy and execution products, reporting and disclosure, greenhouse gas calculations and net zero, ESG compliance and risk, and sustainable IT. We typically build and implement for our customers through a maturity journey, starting with the lowest maturity for a company, which is ad hoc, all the way to the integrated level of maturity. People choose ServiceNow for ESG because we can collect data at scale faster than anybody in the market, and we have top-notch reporting tools like our War 365 add-in we built for reporting and last mile reporting. We also help you with compliance, such as CSRD, SEC, and other compliance frameworks out there. We help you with responsible procurement, sustainable IT, and we have an aggressive roadmap that is all about getting you faster to compliance, faster to integration of data across the organization. That's all built in our enterprise-grade cloud SaaS solution, which is a Gartner local platform leader in 2023. And we do this with the highest of ROI for our platform owners and our customers. Talking a little bit about how we get that data audit ready for you. How do we collect the data? We help you define, configure, collect, and calculate data easily on the platform by leveraging content out of the box and configurations to get you faster to value, making data collection automated in most cases, and when it's not automated, easy to collect manually. We also have a robust calculation engine that allows you to build all the formulas in greenhouse gas inventory calculations for scope 1, 2, and 3. And with that, I want to ask you one more question regarding the maturity of your business. Where do you sit today? How mature is your sustainability and ESG management program? Do you think you're ad hoc and siloed, basically you're on spreadsheets and disjointed? Do you think you're in the disclosure-driven stage, which is a place where you're already doing annual reporting driven by regulations or investor expectations? Are you governed? Do you have risk and policy and compliance as part of your program? Or are you fully integrated with ESG as part of how you do business today? Please select one of the 4, and we'll share with you the results here shortly. Give you about a minute to answer the poll. And then we're going to get straight into what we built new in our Washington release. Give you another 30 seconds. Let's go ahead and click on your poll here. We got another 20 seconds on the poll. We want to see as many of you responding as possible. And if you're deciding between 2, pick the one you think best describes your company. Don't think too hard. Another 10 seconds. All right, let's take a look at those results. Okay, not surprised. If 50% of the poll takers in the first poll said they don't have plans, I'm not surprised that 32% are in the ad hoc point, and even those who are doing some disclosure-driven in that maturity piece of the journey, they may have some rudimentary tools. That's not surprising. That's actually a very telling data point, which is interesting. The other interesting piece is we have two respondents that are in that integrated side of the house, which is really good. If you're in the integrated maturity journey, then you're much further ahead of the curve than anyone else. So congratulations to you. All right. Let's get into what we built in our Washington release. Okay. And I'll start by showing the product evolution. And you can see we released our product November of 2021. And since then, this is our sixth version of the product, and Washington release version. And in this version of the product, we've made a lot of enhancements, but today we're going to focus on a handful of them. We're going to talk about sustainable IT, our second version of sustainable IT. From reporting, governance, and compliance, we'll look at ESG risk assessments and disclosure reporting governance. And we're going to focus on formula builder under the continuous improvement and more content that we've released and integrations that we've released on CSRD and ESRS automation. So with that, I will pass it to Brittany. And Brittany's going to tell us all about disclosure reporting governance.
Yeah, so first big milestone moment for this release is the enhancement on top of our Microsoft 365 integration, which we released initially a couple of releases ago. But this enhancement really allows us to take this particular format of creating disclosure reports to the next level. And essentially what it allows customers to do now is have an entirely end-to-end, fully governed, fully assurable experience when it comes to report and disclosure writing. So what we've done is we have added a disclosure governance framework that allows users to start from a templated standpoint, right? So let's say that you have a basic standard template that you use for annual report writing. That standard template becomes the basis for all of the annual sustainability reports or global impact report, however you call it. And each year, as you go to create that document fresh, you start from that same template. What this allows you to do is essentially start from a already filled out Word document that then you can just populate in your values, your narrative, anything else that's relevant to your report for that year, and pull that information in from the ServiceNow system where all of your metric data is captured. And then because you're managing this process and governing this process in the ServiceNow platform, as you go to make updates to that document and iterate on it, you have the ability to collaborate on it with other users as well. You can then make sure that every time that you're adding new metrics, once you have added that metric or that data point to your Word document, on the back end, ServiceNow is keeping track of all of those metrics that are related to this disclosure. So in the future, if you get questions as to where a value came from, or you're going through an assurance process, or maybe you're already doing limited assurance and you're getting ready for reasonable, right? You can start to think about where all of the data points and all of that audit trail lives for every single data point throughout that disclosure. And then once the disclosure report looks good, you've got a final draft of it, you send that entire report through an approval process as well. So end to end, everything from the data capture in the system to calculations to then populating that data here within the Word document where you're preparing your disclosure, all the way through the final approval of that. Everything is fully auditable and everything has a place and a timestamp home within the ServiceNow platform. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at one version of this. So there are basically two different ways that this integration with Microsoft Office, specifically Word, can work. You either can use a local document, so just store it on your machine, work out of Word on your desktop, or you can also use a document that's hosted in OneDrive as well. If you don't want to have to upload the document again, or if you have collaborators, you can also work out of a OneDrive document too. So in order to take a look at this, I'll do a quick demo, and I will go ahead and share my screen and we can see what this looks like in the system. All right. So here we are in the ServiceNow platform, and I've just logged in as sort of a power user. She's got a lot of different hats that she can wear. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at the narrative disclosure process, both the templates as well as what an active disclosure looks like as it's being written. So here in the ESG workspace, you can see you've got access to all of your menu items here on the left-hand side. We can see our narrative disclosures here, everything that's in process. And you can also use your filter navigator here as well to look for various different elements of the platform where you might want to do some configuration. As an administrator, I might want to take a look at my disclosure templates before I see or start writing a disclosure report. And this is where I can say, where I can determine my disclosure types and then default a baseline document that I want to use as that starting place for that particular disclosure. So in this case, we'll be looking at an annual report. So we could see, and we'll see a populated version of this in a second, but we can see that we've got a standard annual report template that's associated with that disclosure type. Now, when we go ahead and fast forward a couple of steps and actually see this in action, we can go ahead and take a look at an annual impact report already in process. It's got that same annual report type. And in here, if we take a look at this, we can see all of the details of an annual report that we're working on. Up here at the top, we've got our workflow just showing us where we are in the disclosure writing process, right? And so this is kind of the train tracks that are showing us where we are through that governance process. And we have a visual of that document. So starting from just our blank slate, this is a look at our blank annual report template that we associated with this report type. We can see sort of the basics. We've got our table of contents up at the top, maybe some basic terminology, but it's pretty blank so far. What we can do is we can go ahead and actually download a version of this and start to work on this document right from within Word directly. So if we go ahead and open this up, I'm going to bring this over where we can see it on this screen over here. And from here, we'll be able to see the report document that we're working on. So I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see. And from within here, you'll see, if you're familiar with the ServiceNow platform and our Microsoft 365 integration, you'll be familiar with our panel over here on the right-hand side. And this is what allows you to populate that data, populate those values, all of your metric data that you're storing within the ServiceNow platform, and directly embed that within your Word document. So for those folks that already use this, this should look very familiar. And you'll see that you'll still be able to do the same functionality. You'll be able to embed different tables of data if you want to. So we've got a report here on some net carbon emissions, some different, oops, let me close my Teams. So we've got some different data points from portfolio companies maybe, or investments in carbon assets, for example. So we can see some data that we might want to embed within here. We also have the ability to add charts as well. So hopefully folks are familiar with that. So if we wanted to add a visual of, say, our emissions across different portfolio companies, if we have some investments, we can populate that in here as well. Now, just as a reminder too, on how powerful this integration is, you also have the ability to trace all of this data back to its original source within the ServiceNow platform as well. So up in here where we can actually manage the links that we've inserted, the panel over here will show you a complete view of all of the different views if you want to refresh those links and update it with the latest information, or if you want to drill in specifically and actually see traced back into the system where that report or that particular data point comes from, you can drill all the way back here into that data. So here we'll be able to see the setup for that particular visualization, that report. We can see the report parameters. And of course, you'll be able to also see all of the data points behind this as well. So if we wanted to drill in and see individual data points, see the specific entities that this is related to, all of that data is going to be here right at your fingertips. So that is part of the Word integration that we already have within the product. Let's get back to the portion of this that is new, which is the governance framework around managing this disclosure document itself. So once we have made some adjustments, we could also add in some additional description, right? Whatever we want to add in here, we can do all of our formatting, right? This is Microsoft Word, so very familiar user interface with everything. We'll be able to actually link this back to the document within the instance. You'll notice here this document ID, and this document ID is exactly what ServiceNow is using to link the metrics that we've embedded within this document to the document that we already have here within the instance. So if I wanted to go ahead, I could upload this disclosure document again, and you'll be able to see this document ID is the same one as what we have within Word. So at the risk of going through that process, we'll take a look at this document as it's already, again, sort of fast forwarded in time, and we can see that the system has made those attachments to the different metrics. So all of the metrics that we've referenced in our tables and all of our reporting, we can see those within here as well. I can make this a little bit bigger. We can see all of those different data points, qualitative data, quantitative data, right? Maybe we're responding to a questionnaire. Maybe we're responding to a specific framework that has qualitative responses required, like TCFD, or we're responding to some new ESRS requirements, right? As that's going to include a lot of subjective responses, as well as our quantitative data around emissions. And you'll notice that this is all of your quantitative data, including everything that is referenced in a calculation. So where we're summarizing scope 3 emissions in a report, for example, you'll still be able to drill in and see all of the individual data points for those specific entities for those time periods that we're aggregating in that report. And then finally, once we have finished editing and updating and making adjustments and collaborating on our document, we'll then be able to go through and send this for approval. So you can see that we've already sent this particular document for approval once. That approver has sent it back to revise, because this is an active workflow. You can manage what this process looks like and how documents move through the process. Once we've decided, yes, it looks good, we finalized everything, we can send it for approval again for our approver, Raina, to go ahead, take a look at the final version of the document. She'll see that in her tasks and say, yes, everything looks good. And then once that document is complete, you've got a complete record of all of the metrics, all of the approvers, everything that went into creating and writing that document in one place within this narrative disclosure piece of functionality. So really great enhancement. Customers really excited about this. This was spawned from a customer request specifically. And so we're excited to deliver to you this complete end-to-end disclosure, writing, and governance process. Where do you want to move to the next enhancement?
Yes, let's do that. Okay, so and then we'll go to the next one, which is, oh, there we go, ESG Risk Management. Perfect.
So also representing the ESG Risk Management enhancement. So this was another big one for us. One of the really powerful elements of the ServiceNow portfolio is that the ESG product, the ESG management product, what we're looking at, what's new within the application, sits in the ServiceNow portfolio alongside all of our other risk applications as well. And for a lot of customers, they're starting to get a little bit more pressure in terms of how to respond to and manage and monitor ESG and climate-related risks. So one of the ways that we have started to leverage other areas of the platform and other applications within the portfolio is to start to build these better together solutions that allow users to take advantage of functionality across many different applications to serve common use cases like managing ESG related risk. And so with this enhancement, we've allowed our customers to take advantage of the advanced risk assessment process within IRM and visualize that and leverage that and use that from an ESG professional standpoint. So what this allows our users to do is conduct ESG related risk assessments on two different types of objects within the system. One is on your entities, and this is what we'll actually take a look at in a demo. And this basically says if you have a physical location, like a physical entity, if you have a product line, if you have an office location, any element of running your business that may be subject to some type of ESG related risk that you want to assess, you can conduct an ESG related risk assessment. And we deliver that risk assessment methodology out of the box for those entities. And so the example that we'll take a look at is if we're managing different data centers and we want to evaluate both the physical risk as it relates to climate change, as well as the potential transition risk. And for each of our different entities, we want to understand what the impact of climate risk, both from a physical and transition perspective, could look like. The other type of object that this risk assessment tool allows you to evaluate is risk as it relates to material topics, right? So you may conduct a materiality assessment every couple of years or so, but as we've started to see with new regulations that are coming out, particularly those that are informed and built on TCFD, there's a lot more interest in understanding the risks associated with these different topics, right? Impact to the organization touches on that to a certain degree. And the other sort of component of this is outward impact or impact to stakeholder. But as we start to want to get a clearer picture, and as risk professionals and sustainability professionals are working more closely together, there's a lot of demand to understand what is the ESG risk associated with those specific sets of topics, right? We understand that it's a priority for the organization. We want to understand, what the risk is associated with that. So down here, when I share screen at the bottom, you can't see in that screenshot, but when I share my screen, we'll take a look at what that list of material topics looks like. And then we'll be able to see, yes, we also want to conduct a risk assessment specifically dedicated to that material topic as well. So those two different types of objects, whether it's an entity, which can really represent any type of object within the system, or its material topic specifically, ServiceNow is delivering those risk assessment methodologies and a little bit of reporting to help you understand the results of those as well. So let me go ahead and I will grab the screen back and we can do a quick demo of risk assessments.
While Brittany does that, if you have any questions so far on what you've seen or what you're about to see, please don't be shy and put your questions. We'll answer some live, and some of them are going to be answered on the Q&A tool.
So back in here in our ESG workspace, we can go ahead, we can navigate around the ESG workspace. You can also use the filter navigator. And in this case, I'm going to use the filter navigator to look for some elements of risk. And in here, because we have this administrator role, you can actually see that we have access to a lot of configurability from a risk standpoint, right? So risk administration within environmental social governance management, so within ESG management is this application. You'll see that you have the ability to maintain different factors in terms of what you're evaluating. You're able to manage your methodologies within here, or scoping your entities to various different risk statements that you may have. And you'll ultimately be able to see some reporting, whether it's by entity or whether it's at the aggregated risk statement level. So just to give you an example of what this looks like, maybe from the perspective of somebody who's completing an assessment, let's take a look at some of the entities that we have already scoped in from an ESG perspective. So as I mentioned, in our example, we're kind of taking the entity approach, and we're going to take a look at a few data centers that we're managing. We have some existing risk assessments. We have a couple that are ongoing, and this reporting just kind of lets us check in and see how we're performing against our goals of completing those assessments. We can also come in here and manage each individual entity if we wanted to add additional risks to assess as well. So within this particular entity for the Calgary data center, we can see that we've got a few different risks listed here that we're assessing. And you can, just by reading these, you can kind of tell that these are largely evaluating physical risk as it relates to climate specifically. So weather events, over long-term climate change impacts like rising sea levels, rising mean temperatures. So you have both acute and long-term risks that you're evaluating, but maybe you also want to understand some more of those transition-related risks as well. So you can either create a new risk for this entity from the library, or we can add one that this entity has already been scoped in for. So in this case, let's say that we want to understand what the increased price of GHG emissions might mean, right? So if we're considering using some kind of internal carbon pricing or shadow tax around our energy consumption, which our data center will use a lot of energy, we want to understand what the impact of that could mean for this particular entity. So once we've added that risk, we can go ahead and initiate the assessment. And you'll see, based on the way that this assessment is structured, is that this is going to, the ESG DO stands for data owner, right? So that's going to be our individual that is responding to this particular assessment. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to that ESG DO or ESG data owner role. And take a look at what they see when they go ahead and fill in that assessment. So as a data owner, you can see this role-based security is really limiting my view. I've just logged back in here to the ESG workspace. I don't have nearly as much control or access into the rest of the system. I have a lot of work ahead of me. I have quite a few overdue metrics to provide, some scope 1 data, but I also have outstanding tasks like managing the risk assessments for particular entities that I oversee. So if I come into my risk assessment tasks, I can see that I've got that Calgary data center, increased pricing of GHG emissions risk ready to assess. So if we drill into that, the system is going to be super helpful, provide us all the contextual information that we need about this particular risk, the timing that I have to complete the assessment. And within here, we can actually see the assessment itself. Now, the factors that we're evaluating, the ranking, the scoring that goes on behind this is entirely configurable to meet the needs of your business. And for the folks on the call who are already familiar on the risk side of the risk and ESG portfolio of products, this is nothing new. But from an ESG standpoint, if this is sort of your first time seeing any of our risk-related functionality, you can start to get an appreciation for just how configurable this is when you understand that pretty much everything on the screen can be configured or tailored to meet your needs, right down to the level of textual help or support, the scoring methodology that you can use. So as a user is filling in different scores, like, yeah, it's pretty likely that increasing prices of GHG emissions might put some pressure on us from a financial standpoint if we're going to be held accountable for our portion of emissions. And maybe this is going to have a minor impact. We don't see it being a huge increase, but you can see the system is calculating that score on the back end for you, right? So really powerful engine behind this. You do have the option to allow overwriting if you want to, additional comments, etc. So you could review this, submit this for a final approval if you wanted to. I will leave it open for right now, so we could always come back in and change it for additional demos in the future if we wanted to, but you can go ahead and progress this all the way through that final assessment process. Now, what we see on the back end, if I go back to the administrator or the ESG admin view, once again, I have full access to the rest of the system now, but I can go ahead and see a little bit of reporting on the results of our risk assessments in aggregate. So if I wanted to see at that risk statement level, how are we performing across all of my entities? With this view, I can now see, okay, for our increased pricing of GHG emissions, I can see that this is a high concern. We've got a pretty high inherent rating, and I could also drill in and see all of the contributing risk assessments that make up that score. I can also see this particular risk statement and the risks within it that maybe are a little bit higher or a little bit lower in aggregate, right? You don't want to focus entirely on just the average score because you may have really extreme outliers that you're not necessarily capturing if the rest of your values are a little bit lower, but it does give you a relative view and allows you to kind of drill in and understand where is there additional concern that we might want to drill in and focus, where are the controls that we need to put in place, what kind of governance do we want to have in place as a result of this assessment. So again, just stepping back, this is really delivering on the power of the ServiceNow platform because ESG and risk are two sister products that have a lot of overlapping tooling and functionality, and it addresses a common need that we've heard from a lot of our customers, which is we need to be able to get a little bit more serious and quantitative about our ESG, specifically climate-related risk impact assessment. So as we start thinking about things like the new proposed, still pending, is still litigating SEC rule or CSRD reporting around IRO, your impacts, risks, and assessments, right? Understanding the risks associated with your ESG topics is going to be really important. So having a platform that allows you to have really robust ESG functionality and really robust risk tooling as well gives you the best of both worlds and gives you that single pane of glass through which to manage and report against all of those different risks. So that is a quick look at ESG risk assessment, and I will turn it back over to Maury and the rest of the team to cover future additional updates.
Vaishak, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Maury. Thank you, Brittany. Hello all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're dialing in from. So the next feature that I want to showcase is Sustainable IT version 2.0. This covers the enhancements to the first version, which was released in August 2023. We have included feedback from our early adopters. As you might know, from the first version, we have the hardware assets and data center tab, which shows the carbon footprint from the organization's hardware assets and data centers respectively. But a missing piece was a single consolidated view, which can be leveraged by the IT execs and the ESG team to get an overview of their IT footprint across the entire organization. And what better than a map to show the global footprint? So this configurable map, which we have added as part of the Washington release, allows you to define what aspect of sustainable IT data you want to see, or simply put, what is the data that you want to see and how do you want to see it. So this consolidated view provides them with a comprehensive overview of their sustainable IT KPIs across the entire IT landscape and help them make informed decisions faster with a single source of truth. Another highlight that I want to call out is the ability to access the sustainable IT dashboard from the IT asset executive workspace. So this workspace helps to gain visibility into critical KPIs for hardware asset management, software asset management, and the cloud cost management applications via a single dashboard. So the advantage is that the IT execs don't have to navigate to the ESG workspace every time to access the sustainable IT dashboard. In addition to it, there are also a couple of other improvements that we have made. The first one is the ability to filter the data by the sustainable IT metric definitions. So we are shipping a few metric definitions out of the box. So we have given an easy way as part of this release for users to filter those out, wherein we have added a new group called sustainability, using which users can easily filter out the metric definitions that we are shipping out of the box. The last thing that I want to call out is that we have added sustainableIT.org content into our ESG Content Accelerator application. So that is something that is now available at your disposal. And this is something that Sachin will be showcasing in a bit. Now, let me move on to the demonstration to show you what exactly have we done and what I was just speaking about, right? So this is the Sustainable IT dashboard. And as you can see, we have added a new component called new tab called IT Footprint Map here. And this is along with the hardware assets and data centers tab, right? So as you land on this page, you will see these pins with icons and colors. And these have been set up for the IT execs to see the global IT footprint map. Now, I have configured two entity classes in this particular instance, data centers and office buildings or office locations. And if you want to see one category at a time, you can just filter it, right? And the map will get updated automatically. Now, the icons on the pin here indicate which entity class they belong to, right? So this is for data center and this one is for the office locations. And if you have more than one entity around a particular area, it automatically consolidates that, as you can see from here. If you zoom in here, you will see that this too automatically moves on to show the two data centers that are consolidated under the zoomed out view. Right now, when they log in and they see red here, it clearly indicates that there is some trouble here. And as they hover over it, they'll see a few. They'll see some information, which is in this particular case, it shows that this is for the New Jersey data center, and there is something called as classification, and there is a metric and data associated with that, right? So this shows that it is bad. And so what exactly does this mean, right? So this means that for this particular data center, the metric that we would want to see or that we have configured for this is not in a great shape, right? So this is something that they would want to drill deep and understand more on why is it not functioning as per what we have done, right? So they click on this and they see a side panel open here, and they can see along with the DCI some of the other key metrics that they have configured for the data centers. Right? So these are the PUE, WE, CUE, and the emissions and energy consumed. Now, the most interesting part of this is that this entire map that we have built, which is built on the sustainable IT application, is completely configurable, which means that when you are implementing it, you can very easily configure the icons that you want for a particular entity class, data center, office buildings, or in case you have any other entity classes like, let's say, factory locations, all of those icons can be configured. You can also configure what metric do you want to see when you hover over it, right? So in this case, I have configured DCI, Data Center Infrastructure Efficiency, but you can configure any other metric also in case you want to do that. Another thing is this classification, right? So you see that it is classified as bad, and in this particular case, for an office location one, it is classified as medium. So what data range to use for this classification is also something that you can configure, right? So this configurable map allows you to see what are the sustainable IT metrics that you want to see on the map, along with the classification, the icons, and the color of the icons as well. And the way you can do it is through the map marker configuration that we are shipping out of the box, right? So here you can see the two configurations, which are for each of the two entity classes, right? So in this case, if I click on DCI, I will be able to see the configuration I have created, which is essentially powering this map, right? So I have created a new configuration called DCI, where I have selected which metric do I want to use for the to show on the overview. What is the default icon color? What is the entity class? What is the icon that I want to use? And the classification for the data, right? So I am saying that if my DCI is from 0 to 49%, I want to classify it as bad, and so on and so forth, right? So if it's 80 to 100, I want to classify it as good. So that way, when the IT exec comes and logs comes into this map view, very easily, just by looking into this, they will get an overview of what are the different entities across their entire global operations, and how are they doing on the parameter that they have set for the metrics that they want to configure. So this configurable map is something that that we have enhanced as part of the Sustainable IT version 2.0 that is available as part of the Washington release. That's the first thing that I wanted to showcase. The next enhancement that I want to talk about is the improved formula builder, right? So now you can build calculated metrics faster with the new and enhanced formula builder. Now, one of the consistent feedback that we have been hearing from customers is that the formula builder that we had in our calculated metric definitions was limiting, and there are certain limitations that are stopping the formula builder from giving a good experience, right? So one of them, a few of them, I have listed it down on the deck here. So as you can see, one of the main limitations was that users were not able to type and edit on the formula builder that we had previously. Now that is definitely not intuitive, as users would want to type and edit the formula as they create these calculated metric definitions. Another major limitation was the lack of support for constants. So in case you want to create a metric like this, where you want to express something as a percentage by multiplying it by 100, that was not possible previously. And that was the recurring feedback that we have been hearing from a lot of our customers and partners. So we have enhanced this formula builder to add that support. The other part was the support for easier error handling and debugging. So we have introduced, as part of this formula builder, much more capabilities for handling the errors and debugging. And lastly, the ability for users to configure additional tables for showing up as operands in the formula builder. So these are some of the enhancements that we have included as part of the enhanced formula builder. And with that, let me show you a demo of that. So formula builder, the enhanced formula builder is available as part of the calculated metric definition. So as you create a new calculated metric definition, and let me create one as part of this. So let me create a calculated metric definition to calculate the percentage of male employees, and let me save it. So as you save it, you will see on the side panel here that new section called Formula Builder is added. And this is the new Formula Builder, right? So as you can see, this can be directly, users can directly start typing and they can go on the fly. So in order to select the operand, you can type the backslash and it will show you the operands that have been configured. These can be configured. So these are the ones that we have already configured as part of the out-of-the-box formula builder. But as I'll show you after I create the formula, you can configure this as well. So let me select the metric definition. So I want the total employees by me, and as I type in, immediately it will show in case there are any errors. So this is the improved debugging capability that I was talking about. And let me select the total employees. Right, I will add here and let me multiply it by 100 since I want it as percentage. And as I click on it, it will show you the formula in a much more readable format, and that will enable the user or anyone who is coming to the calculated metric definition to see what exactly is this formula all about, right? And once I click on it, rest of the things remain the same. You can execute it and the data will start getting collected on the calculated metric data, right? And if you want to edit this formula, you can just go back to edit, and the edit and preview mode allows you to switch back between the edit and the preview mode. And you can copy and reset this. Now the configuration that I was talking about is available as part of the formula builder configurations here. As you can see here, these are the configurations that we are shipping out of the box. In case you want any other table to be used as part of the operands list that was available here, which you can see by typing on this, right? So if you want to configure any other operands in addition to what we are shipping out of the box, then that can be done using this configuration by clicking on new and selecting the table that you want to use as your operands. You can give any condition in case you want to restrict any specific records. You can select the display field. So in this case, as you see, as I select the metric definition, the display field is the metric definition name. But in case you want to use some other field for display, that can also be done. And the identifier is what helps in the formula parsing. This is something which is for the backend processing, right? So once you create this configuration, making changes along with this on the on the data broker on the backend will enable you to configure any other any other table as part of your operands as well. So this is the enhanced formula builder that we have released as part of the Washington release, and this is available as part of the calculated metric definition. So with that, I will pass it on to Sachin to cover the content accelerator updates.
And before Sachin starts with that, we have a third poll there to understand everybody's role in the call. So if you can take 30 seconds to answer this poll, be greatly appreciated. We want to know whether you are an ESG or sustainability manager, whether you are a IT sustainability manager, a ServiceNow platform owner, corporate or regulatory compliance agent at your company, a partner or part of our ServiceNow ecosystem member, or any other. So please take 20 seconds to answer this question, and then Sachin is going to go and talk about content accelerators. Sachin, well, the audience, we're looking at your swap the displays. So instead of looking at the notes, we look at the actual, yeah. All right, 10 more seconds for poll number 3, and then we'll close it, and then we go into the last portion of the demo. Once again, if you have questions, please put them in our Q&A tool. We've been answering about everything that has come our way, so don't be shy. Sachin, go ahead. We can close the poll.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So as a last highlight for the Washington release, I'll be covering the updates that are part of ESG Content Accelerator. So to begin with, ESG Content Accelerator is a centralized repository where customers can download different frameworks and citations that are part of these frameworks and metric definitions that are required to be in compliance for these frameworks. And customers can choose and select the applicable citations and metric definitions for them. And as part of ESG Content Accelerator, in the past, we had 4 different frameworks that were available. These include mainly GRI standards, SASB standards, TCFD, and UNSDG goals. And starting from Washington release, we have released ESRS content that is now available for all the customers. And as part of this ESRS framework, we have a set of citations and metric definitions that customers can choose and download. And as some of you might already know, ESRS is EU regulation that is applicable for large companies operating in the EU and mainly EU listed companies. And with this content, we wanted to help our customers jumpstart this reporting and disclosure process and accelerate the disclosure progression. And apart from that, we also have standards from sustainableIT.org that are now available through ESG Content Accelerator. This is an industry standard for IT leaders who can use these standards to help, where they can use the standards to document and report IT-specific sustainability impacts. So with this, I'll quickly show how customers can use this. And for this, I'll move to the instance. Can you all see my instance?
Yes.
Okay. So right now I'm in the ESG workspace, and to access the ESG Content Accelerator, we'll go here. And here we have the different frameworks that are available through ESG Content Accelerator. So to activate this, all you have to do is select the required version. So for example, if there are multiple versions of a certain framework, you can choose and select the latest version or the version that you are required to report on, and then click on Activate. Now, as part of the activation, customers can choose the required citations based on the geography or industry they operate on. And once they choose the citations, in the next screen, they are able to select the metric definition that are applicable for the chosen citations. And they can choose the required metric definitions here. And once they click on Submit, the citations and metric definitions will be imported into the ESG application. And this set of citations can be accessed within the workspace from here, where here we are seeing the imported authority documents and citations that are already downloaded in this instance, and metric definitions can be accessed through this list. So this metric definition and citations will be linked to each other. And once the metric definitions are activated and reported on, you can automatically report against these citations, and you can be in compliant with these regulations as well.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming today. It's been a pleasure. Please make sure to fulfill the survey at the end of the webinar to let us know how we did and what we can do better so we can improve over time. Thank you very much.